So maybe first some facts about the two manual Mustel. Mustel has invented this instrument about 1875. He's firstly mentioning his two manual instrument in a letter to Jacques Clemens on May 1874, saying that he's in the process of inventing a new model which he's considering to be the superlative. So the question is, what is it, this instrument, and what is different to the other art harmoniums that Victor Mustel built, and what for? Why he created a two manual instrument, and what you play on such an instrument. So still maybe about the facts. First instruments appeared in September, October 1875, and the earliest two manual Mustel known nowadays is from 1 year later, and it's an instrument that belonged to André Fleury, the French composer. So this instrument, the number 233, I think, is now in the Museum Toccata in Tarare, in the region of Lyon. And Mustel built only 154 two manual instruments between 1875 and 1931. So there are very few left from these two manual instruments. And basically the idea was to have on the first manual the stops, the front stops from the art harmonium, which is the flute and the clarinet. And on the upper manual the more expressive stops, as there is the number 3 fifre clairon, the number 4 basson hautbois, and 5 and 7 and 8. And Victor Mustel changed his system of the double expression in the way that one mi swell is actually in the double expression from the first manual and the other one from the second. What for? Of course, with this display you have more possibilities, you have bigger compass. There is no split anymore between E and F. This means the right hand or the left, they can really play separately, with separate wind, and it doesn't matter the split. This means there is more possibility of sounds, and it is, as Victor Mustel writes to Lemens, the purpose is that you can play all sorts of music.
That's very vague.
Not only harmonium music, and evidently you can also play a lot of music that is written pour orgue ou harmonium. All these pieces that are not respecting the split of the normal harmonium between E and F. In addition to this, you have a couple of new sound resources. For example, the number 4 which is now only on the upper manual, can also be used as a number 1 if you pull the metaphone. There is a very effective metaphone, which is really changing a number 4 in a number 1 almost, and a number 5 in a number 2. So if you play in this way, right hand up, left hand down, you have still the effect of the double expression for the right hand and for the left hand as in a normal art harmonium. But in addition to this, you have the possibility to go lower with your right hand or to go higher with your left hand than normal. The voix céleste and the arpéolienne, they are both in 8-foot.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because on this instrument you will anyway play a lot with octavating, playing higher or lower than the music is written. And because they are both on the same 8-foot level, you can also have effects of coupling them together and going from one color to the other. This means you can start with a dark voix céleste sound and gradually light it up by adding more and more with the double expression, adding more of the arpéolienne. And the same thing, of course, you can do with the 1 and the 4 and so on. So this instrument is allowing also gradual changes of colors, which in a normal art harmonium is possible too, but not to the same degree.
Yeah.
So you can choose how loud you want the number 1 to be and how soft you want the number 4 to be, and this relationship between stops, that is normally fixed. The performer can vary by himself. There is very few music written for these two manual instruments, and therefore I have commissioned some pieces by contemporary composers, and especially for playing with orchestras or with choirs, it is very comfortable to have such an instrument because you have almost no limitations. And also you have now 3 plans of sonorities. You have 2 manuals, but also a section for playing a pedal part, which means the lowest 17 notes, they have separate stops, which are red. And the same 17 notes, they also have a prolongement. So it is possible to have a soft or a loud pedal point, which is completely separate from the rest of the instrument. So the new sound resources would be that Victor Mustel built the instrument in the way that the front stops, that stops that are normally speaking through the front, from the art harmonium, they are sounding on the first manual, and the other stops, the more expressive stops, which are going to the other direction of the instrument, which are in the behind located, they are on the second manual. And with the metaphone, which is very effective in these instruments, there is the possibility to make all the stops on the second manual darker, which means a number 4 will turn in a number 1 and the number 5 will turn in a number 2, and in this way it is also possible to play normal repertoire for one manual instrument by placing the two hands in this way. Or then, because he's not needing the split of the keyboard anymore, he could build the baritone one octave lower. So, and he gave a new name to this top, grand horn et baritone. The same happens with the arpéolien. And voix céleste and arpéolien, they are both on 8-foot pitch. Because you can play them one octave lower without any problem. And in addition to that, you can couple the two sounds together and have the possibility to go from a dark voix céleste gradually to a brilliant arpéolien. You're doing that with the double expression. And the same possibility you have with the combination of the stop number 1 and the stop number 4, flute and hautbois. Also there, the performer can go from a dark sound gradually to a bright sound, and can choose by himself how loud the flute shall be in relation to the hautbois. Something that on a normal one manual instrument is fixed. You can also do gradual change from dark to bright, but you can do it much more effectively on a two manual instrument. There is more freedom and more control for the performer. And then we have also a new thing on this instrument. You have now three plans of sonority. You have an extended compass of the right hand and extended compass of the left hand, and in addition to this you have the 17 lowest notes, which are completely separately. There is separate stops, an 8 and a 16 foot. This means it is possible to play pedal notes, organ point with prolongement. Prolongement of the first manual is going also here. And this is completely separately sound-wise. You have separate stops for that. You can have it loud or soft. There is a number 1 and then the pianissimo version of number 1. And there is something more. There is a prolongement for the entire upper manual. So you can do this.
Oh my.
Or over the whole upper manual.
Oh my goodness.
And you play on the first manual melodies. So this is giving you the impression of a type of four hands, possibility to play with four hands. That's about the new thing. And as Victor Mustel writes to Lemens, his idea was to have the possibility to play all kinds of music on the harmonium, not just the repertoire that was written specifically for the art harmonium. But in fact, it is also possible to play quite an amount of pieces that are written for the one manual instrument, also on the two manual instruments. For example, the Menuetto by Carl Gellert from the second sonatine in E minor.
Yeah.
It's perfectly playable on these two manual instruments, as I showed yesterday in the concert.
Yeah, I wondered about that. Mark, I just have a larger question, probably not answerable, but this seems to, the development of this instrument seems to coincide with the development in the pipe organ toward a more colored instrument, and also the development in piano literature toward more colored, the use of the tone of the instrument as a structural item, certainly in the music of Debussy. And it's almost like the zeitgeist was moving in this direction, and Mustel was floating along with it. The question really I've always wondered about is, to what extent Mustel was influenced by the piano in terms of his design and the philosophy of his instruments?
I don't know if he was influenced by the piano, because the period where Mustel were building pianos is much later, and it's not anymore in the times of Victor.
Yeah.
Alphonse started
Yeah.
piano, as far as I know. But concerning colors, evidently in the beginning of the harmonium period, the dynamics was the most predominant topic, and colors came later. But what you just mentioned about the development of the organ and also the development of the harmonium as a replacement of the organ, that's a little bit just after the invention of this instrument. One could think that this instrument was built to replace, as a replacement of the organ, because you have the possibility to do pedal point. But in fact, it is very clearly described that this instrument was an orgue pour le salon. And Victor is still referring to the salon with his invention. And the models with pedal and also the models with more round and more full sound, which were created for the churches, comes really later. At that period, 1875, Victor was not yet thinking about selling instruments to churches. So
very
even
interesting.
the two manual instrument is built for the salon.